News on South Africa. A startling figure has emerged from one of the country's most iconic wildlife reserves, and it raises urgent questions about the future of both conservation and security in South Africa. In the first 3 months of 2025, more than 100 rhinos were killed by poachers inside our borders, over 65 of them in national parks alone. It means that, on average, more than one rhino per day has been lost to illegal hunting, with devastating implications for the species and the country's conservation efforts. The nation hosts the world's largest rhino population, estimated at between 16,000 and 18,000 animals. Of those, approximately 2,000 are the critically endangered black rhinos, unique to Africa and under intense threat. The killings this year align with the same grim pace seen last year, a reminder that the danger is neither new nor fading. This wave of poaching is not simply a wildlife concern. It is a reflection of deeper failures in enforcement, cross-border crime, organized syndicates, and the steep decline of biodiversity that once defined South Africa's natural heritage. Why has the scourge persisted so long? And what is being done to turn the tide? The ministry in charge of the environment quietly reported the numbers. Among the 103 confirmed rhino deaths between January 1 and March 31st, some 65 occurred within national parks, the heart of protected wildlife areas. These remain the front line in the battle, but the front lines are being breached. It is worth pausing on that number. 65. Think of it. Every 3 days or so, a rhino inside a park was poached. These are not isolated incidents. They are part of a sustained assault on a fragile ecosystem. Officials point to criminal networks as the real drivers behind much of the poaching. Not opportunistic hunters, but well-organized, cross-border operations that target rhino horns for the illicit trade. The recent conviction of a major poaching kingpin under international cooperation was hailed as a victory of sorts. Yet the daily losses continue unabated. Consider the setting. Vast swaths of the country's wilderness, layered with fences and ranger outposts, yet in the shadows, syndicates hunt and move illegally. The contrast is stark. On one hand, rangers patrol, drones monitor, intelligence units work. On the other, criminals navigate the gaps, exploit weaknesses, and keep the toll rising. Why does this matter? For one, each rhino that is killed reduces the gene pool, weakens the species' resilience, and narrows the margin for recovery. Black rhinos in particular cannot absorb losses at this rate without significant long-term damage. For another, the crime carries a broader cost: reputational, economic, environmental. Tourism, conservation funding, international partnerships all are jeopardized when the losses mount. Delve further. The rhinos themselves, majestic creatures, slow breeding, vulnerable. They need protection, yes, but they also need stability, habitat, anti-poaching infrastructure, and above all, an environment where the law holds. When criminal networks find success despite those measures, the question becomes, are we simply reacting rather than preventing? Are our strategies adapting fast enough to match the shifting tactics of poachers? Moreover, the challenge is not purely local. Borders, trafficking routes, international demand, they all matter. Rhino horn may move from national parks here to markets abroad. Enforcement here is only one piece of the puzzle. If the global demand remains unchecked, the pressure here will continue. Yet, there are signs of effort. The authorities acknowledged the staggering numbers. They highlighted the sentencing of a major syndicate leader as proof of increasing resolve. Investments in anti-poaching, improved intelligence, greater patrols, and cooperation with neighboring states are ongoing. But against the scale of the problem, these steps may still feel incremental. Let us trace a broader backdrop. South Africa's legacy as the custodian of some of the richest biodiversity on the continent, a heritage built over centuries, and one that many believe defines part of our national identity. The survival of the rhino is both a symbol and a practical matter. Ecosystems depend on each part functioning. When a key species falters, the ripple effects spread. And then there is the human dimension. In rural and protected areas, local communities often bear the frontline burdens: conflict with wildlife, economic marginalization, sometimes participation prompted by poverty and lack of opportunity. Conservation is not simply a matter of fences and rangers. It is also one of livelihoods, inclusion, and enabling people to see value in preserving rather than exploiting. The pressure on our environment is intensifying. Climate change, habitat loss, illegal mining, poaching, multiple threats converge. The cruel irony is that while the world increasingly talks about saving endangered species, on the ground in South Africa, the losses continue almost daily in near silence. The challenge is immense, but so is the opportunity. So, where do we go from here? The answer must lie in a multi-pronged approach. Strengthening enforcement is crucial, but so too is addressing root causes, reducing demand for rhino horn globally, disrupting trafficking networks, offering local alternatives, and embedding conservation in economic development strategies. Partnerships across borders, private and public sectors, communities, and conservation scientists all will be needed. And there is one clear message. Without change, the losses will compound, the species will edge closer to collapse, and a national treasure may slip beyond redemption. With change, however, there is hope for resilience, revival, and reaffirmation of South Africa's role as a guardian of nature. In the end, while over 100 rhinos killed in 3 months is a grim milestone, it is also a turning point. South Africa now stands at a moment of decision. Will we see the surge in poaching as an alarm bell, or simply part of a long-running crisis? The difference will be measured not just in words, but in the lives saved, the horns left untouched, the ecosystems preserved, and the legacy secured for generations.